Morales, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mancera. My name is Nina Perales. I'm the Vice President of Litigation for MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. MALDEF is the law firm that represents LULAC in this very important redistricting litigation. We're here in court today because we were already in the middle of a lawsuit challenging the 2021 redistricting plans when, following the close of our trial in May and June, the Texas legislature went back into special session and enacted a new congressional redistricting plan for 2025. The governor called the legislature back into session because of a letter from the Department of Justice saying that minority coalition districts should be dismantled in the congressional redistricting plan. The legislature went back into special session and they did exactly that. Not only, I have to pause, I'm sorry. The legislature in this new congressional redistricting plan not only dismantled minority coalition districts, but also dismantled 2 Latino majority congressional districts that were in place to comply with the Voting Rights Act. So this new congressional plan is not only disruptive to voters, but it takes away electoral opportunity from Latinos who were already electing their preferred candidates. One in Houston, which is represented by Sylvia Garcia in Congress, and another district that was dismantled in Central Texas, represented by Greg Casar. I'm here to answer any questions about the case or about the hearing. Thank you.
Can you just further explain what coalition districts mean and what does it mean if they disappear?
Coalition districts are districts where the majority is made up of multiple minority groups. So coalition district can be Black and Hispanic voters combining to form a majority, or Black and Hispanic. There were a couple of these districts in the map that were dismantled. One example would be Congressional District 9, which is an African American Opportunity District in Houston that currently elects Congressman Al Green. The Department of Justice letter that kicked off this new redistricting plan took the position that coalition districts are illegal and should be eliminated in the map. And there are many public statements by Governor Abbott as he called the new special session this summer, saying that the purpose of the redistricting was to eliminate coalition districts. And then, in addition to that, there were Hispanic majority districts that were also caught up in this effort and were also dismantled.
How is the hearing going?
The judges are listening very carefully to all of the arguments of the parties. This trial is going on this week and is set to go for all of next week so that both sides can present their witnesses and their evidence.
And is there a message to voters here in Texas, to people here in El Paso, they would like to?
I will definitely leave that message to people who are much more articulate than I am. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you. And I know you have to get back, not only grab a quick lunch, but also get back into the litigation. Thank you for joining us. And now, today, testifying on behalf of the plaintiff of LULAC versus Abbott, State Representative Barbara Gervin Hawkins. She represents the 120 district. So please welcome Representative Gervin.
Thank you. Again, my name is Barbara Gervin Hawkins, and I'm state representative from San Antonio, Texas, of District 120. You know, today is a critical day. As a legislator and as a member of the redistricting committee, I'm here to lend my voice to what's really happening in Texas. So as we think about what folks in El Paso need to do and what we need to do around the state of Texas, we must get engaged in the election process. If you're not registered to vote, you need to get registered to vote. And the last day to get registered is October the 6th. And then early voting starts October 20th, and the election day is on November 4th. Here's the deal, folks. Our black and brown communities need to unite and join together in this effort where the majority party is trying to take us back, and we cannot go back. We refuse to go back. It's all about power and money. And when we talk about power and money, we're talking about the majority population want to decrease our voting population. And for those, particularly young people out there, politics is a game changer. You want to improve your life and your quality of life, you got to get engaged. You got to get involved. And as the attorney from Maldo spoke on this case is critical. Because just think, if the White House can come into Texas, change the dynamics of it, and continue to deport people, put people in jail, come in mass, arrest people, and treat us poorly. We've got to stop that. Texas is a minority-majority state. We must take our state back. And I'm asking each and every one of you, join us this election cycle. Get involved, get engaged, and let's take our state back before the folks in Austin take our money away, our health care away, continue this homeless problem, running up our costs in terms of insurance, can't afford housing, any of that. We must get engaged. So I'm here today to lend my voice to what I heard as an eyewitness to the games and the shame that's being portrayed upon our people. Thank you for having me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And in fact, she is testifying as we speak, but they had to break for lunch. So thank you for taking the time, Representative, to join us. And now I'd like to ask for to her share some comments. Representing LULAC National is our national legal advisor. I'd like to welcome Gloria Leal. Thank you so much.
Hi, how y'all? Sorry, it's really hot out here. I'm sorry. So, my name is Gloria Leal. I am the General Counsel for National LULAC. As y'all know, there's LULAC councils, there's LULAC districts, there's state LULACs, and then there's national, and I'm all of y'all's attorney. As you know, LULAC is the largest and oldest Latin American advocacy group in the United States. We advocate on behalf of the Hispanics and as well as immigrants, our brothers and sisters, to protect your civil rights and your entitlement to equal rights at all levels. LULAC has a history of supporting the Constitution, and we believe in the rule of law. However, in this particular instance, what we're talking about above on the 8th floor, the 3-panel judge, is a misinterpretation or misapplication of the law, and frankly, to be honest, it is unconstitutional, because we believe that in drawing these maps, the legislature evidenced racial intent to purposely dilute coalition districts, which was explained to you, typically consists of two groups, black and whites, that join together to elect a minority candidates. Now, in Austin, for example, where I'm from, that coalition district included Anglos and Hispanics mostly to vote for a Democrat, okay? But this is the opponents, and this would be the state of Texas, Governor Abbott. They deny any discriminatory or racial intent in drawing these lines or these new maps. However, what started this whole process, this mid-decade gerrymandering process, was a letter received from the Department of Justice at the behest of President Trump that coalition districts were unconstitutional and perhaps illegal. which is completely wrong interpretation of the law and the Constitution, but they basically said, look at these 4 districts. And guess what? They're all coalition minority districts. So how can they say on the one hand that there's no racial intent or there was no racial evidence in redrawing, and they didn't look at racial data and redrawing the lines when they targeted 4 coalition districts, and the 4 districts that they redo in Houston happen to be minority majority seats, either held by African American Congress people or Hispanic Congress people. So that's where we are. We believe that the maps clearly show, and the witnesses upstairs have testified, that there had to be racial intent or discriminatory intent prior to drawing the lines, or otherwise you wouldn't have those maps. Why did they target those? Because they were minority. How did we end up with 4 new minority, possibly majority seats in Houston, for example? Because they used the data. Now, mind you, they say that under the new maps, new minority majority seats are created. But those seats that previously had to like 60% of the majority minority population has now gone to 50.1% in one district and 50.5% in another district. Well, they base this on civilian or citizen voting age population, but you all know that regardless of the age population and how many votes, eligible votes we have, our turnout is not as low. So 50.1% of any majority, especially for Hispanics, is not going to guarantee us a minority Hispanic candidate. So basically what's happening in this new district is they're telling us, or you all, hopefully not me in Austin, even though I don't know what district I'm in yet, who your congressman is, or your congressperson, denying your ability to choose your current congressman or woman, representative of your choice, and saying you got to vote for this one, because that's what the numbers are skewed at right now. But LULAC is here. We'll continue to advocate for you, represented by MALDEF. You have great local leaders, and we have great state leaders, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I apologize.
So it's pretty clear that what's going on upstairs is going to affect pretty much the makeup of the U.S. Congress for years to come.
Yes.
Are you anticipating a positive result, and are you anticipating an appeal and keeping the fight all the way to the
Well, as Ms. Perales said, we're positive, and the judges are listening very intently, and they will ask you to repeat a question if they don't understand, and they have asked questions. We hope for a positive result, but regardless of the result, we will appeal, because what happens in Texas has repercussions all over the nation. And as you've heard, when there was a quorum break by Democratic members of the legislature, the House, that went up to Boston to talk to the National Conference of other legislators, we now have California undertaking a redistricting process, although they have a different process, so that they can try to get 5 Democratic seats to balance what's happening in Texas. And already in other states, the Democrats are initiating a redistricting process to try to add Congress people that are Democrats, although LULAC is not partisan at the moment. And with regard to certain issues, we do align with the Democratic Party and Democrat incumbents, because they are more aligned with the goals of LULAC than the Republicans, but not necessarily the case. But in this particular case, we are, because clearly Trump has indicated by his actions on immigrants, cutting Medicare, Medicaid, school benefits to DACA, et cetera, he's anti-immigrant, he's anti-Hispanic, he's anti-civil rights, and he's anti the rights of working men to advance. So, yes, we will.
Thank you.
And also, you spoke about what's happening in Houston, what could happen in Houston. What about Dallas? I believe that there's also
101
in the Hispanic population.
In Dallas, there was one coalition district that was redrawn and impacts the ability of African Americans to win that seat. But in creating that district, it looks like there may be an opportunity for an Hispanic to win in that seat. So it's basically pitting one community, one minority community against the other in this particular area that has a history of divisiveness. So that in no way helps us build coalitions. In fact, will be decisive. But let me just point out another matter, as Malda has consistently pointed out. The last census indicated that the majority of the population growth in Texas was due to the growth of the Hispanic population. So back in 2021, when the 2021 map is also being appealed. They just added this map on top of the other one, okay? So the judges are going to have to decide between both or somehow combine them or whatever. But we have always taken the position that based on that demographic growth of the Hispanic community, Latinos were entitled to 2 congressional seats. And because we have never had an Hispanic congressional seat in the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan areas, perhaps there we could get a seat, and we were entitled to another one in Houston.
Thank
You mentioned voter participation rates. How important is it going to be, regardless of the outcome, to get Hispanics and minorities to vote in the next election?
Well, it is imperative that you vote, because what happens in our upcoming November elections, for example, will determine the balance of the Congress. Right now, we're 2 votes really short, so we have the possibility to at least maintain that, if not add. And because traditionally the party in power does not do that well in midterms, they're pulling out all the stops and tricks to dilute that representation, and that's why this map was pushed through in a very non-transparent process. And I'll let him talk about it. Upstairs, the witnesses have all testified that prior to voting, none of them had access to the votes. To the maps. And not only that, but the leaders that laid out the maps, or the authors, claim that they didn't have access to the maps. So here you have legislators voting on a map that they just saw a couple of days ago without any background. Thank you.
My final question. How does this redistricting affect El Paso?
Okay, well, let me tell you one way that it did affect y'all. When the first map came out, and I look out here because I'm used to being a trial lawyer and talking to the jury and the audience. The first maps that came out, if I'm not completely wrong, eliminated or took Fort Bliss out of the El Paso congressional district and put it in the district that went down to San Antonio, I believe. So you were pairing up Fort Bliss with a rural area under a leadership that has never been represented by them. So your whole Fort Bliss community in that area would have been part of another district. So you couldn't claim them. But what does that mean? Well, Fort Bliss is called an economic motivator, economic engine for districts, and you want those economic engines. You want the airport, you want the colleges, you want the bases. They bring in all the jobs, hotel, they were trying to take that away from y'all. And your representatives lobbied very, very hard to show that there was no community of interest between Fort Bliss and the other district. So not only should you rise up, y'all need to wise up to what's happening in Austin, okay?
Well said.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for those words. And just to put in perspective, yes, when decisions are made, even though we were just fighting initially for 2 congressional districts, and now they changed all the formulas to capture 5 more, it has a domino effect. So you might not think that it's a direct impact, it's an indirect impact. So we are impacted. In fact, I'm part of one of the plaintiffs in the LULAC lawsuit. But let me go ahead and also mention that I was there in 2010 when we picked up 4 congressional districts, and they tried to negotiate with us, and we said no. The 96% of the population growth was due to Hispanic children being born, and that increased it. So we deserved it, and we won in the Supreme Court. Fast forward 20 years later, in 2010, the same thing. We only increased by 2 congressional districts. So we were fighting it out for 2. You might say that it's like it's not that important. Yes, when you have a Congress that they're down to how many show up, because I hope nobody gets sick today because we need that vote, just goes to show you how dire the situation is. So dire that the president said, no, I don't like this. I want to be safe. So I'm asking to redraw, at least in Texas, start with Texas, not 2 by 5 congressional districts. So before I say a few words, final words, I do want to recognize the elected official that is with us, that is an attorney at law himself, Sergio Coronado, County Commissioner.
You know, everybody, it is really a shame. It's a shame that this litigation is going on in our country here in El Paso, here in Texas. And that's what's happening because of the Republican leadership that are more concerned about their jobs. They're more concerned about their jobs than their country and the Constitution. That's what it comes down to. And we here in El Paso, we here in Texas, not just the Latino community, but all the people of El Paso and Texas, we are going to send a resounding message next November. And in order to do that, we all need to get together. We need to unite because this is critical. If we want our country to be as it is, as it was founded, we need to stand up and we need to rise up. It is time that we do this. This is a critical time, more so in any period of time in our country, that this happens. So I want to make sure that everybody out there feels the necessity, the urgency, that we make sure that you get out and register and you make sure that you vote in all elections that are coming up. And I will particularly want to point out to the young people in our community and in Texas, you have to get involved. You have a say so. You have a big contingency and you can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'd like to now recognize our El Paso Local District 4 Director, Carlos Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President Mancera. This all boils down to one thing, okay? President Trump called the governor. He said, can you count to 5? And can you deliver 5 seats? That's what he asked for. And that's what the Republicans are doing. Make no mistake about it. He counted to 5. Abbott delivered 5. Okay? That's all there is to it. Okay? LULAC has a history of fighting for civil rights. It has a long history of fighting for civil rights. We have the most national presidents coming out of El Paso. So El Paso, un paso para atrás nunca. Okay? We stand with LULAC. Me as district director will unite all our councils here in El Paso to make sure that we get out the vote, but also to ensure that this ruling is going to be challenged by either party, okay? The plaintiffs or the defendant. It's going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court, in my opinion, okay? However, we are ready for the fight. We hope that the judges will rule in our favor. But that's what it boils down to. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Carlos Aguilar, District Director for El Paso.
Thank you.
Just Carlos and Ray, just to clarify, then the latest maps, do they modify the El Paso district or not?
The short answer is no, but the long answer is possibly. So that's what we're doing right now, because if they make a decision upstairs and have that domino effect of 5, we will be back being heard. And like our attorney said, rightfully so, 1/3 of the economy is Fort Bliss. And at one point they had carved it out and gave it to Lubbock. And so we fought for it, and so no, give us back and we'll take off east along the border highway, but El Paso has nothing to do, and Fort Bliss has nothing to do with Lubbock and Odessa. Let me go ahead and just before I say a few words, I'd like to first of all, thank the press for coming out here, especially in the sun. But I wanted to thank the local LULACers that are here with us right behind me. Thank you so much for standing up for all of you all, yourself, your parents. Many of you all have a legacy in LULAC, 96 years. El Paso, its first council, was founded, Council Lake, in 1932, correct, Javier? In 1932, and 1 year thereafter, I believe, Council 9th, and we're still alive and well. And I want to thank them because they strictly are volunteers. You have to be cognizant of that. We are moms, dads, abuelitos, tios, primos, and it's just all walks of life. And all we're doing is trying to make sure that our children, our loved ones, have an opportunity to enjoy the American life and what America has to offer. We don't want more, we don't want less than any other American. So let me go ahead and say the following. The foundation of our democracy rests on every citizen having an equal voice to their vote. Texas new maps undermine that principle by manipulating district lines to weaken Latino and Black votes. It is not about partisan politics. It is about fairness. When communities are cracked or packed, their power to elect candidates of choice is deliberately diminished. LULAC for 96 years has stood for voting rights, and today we continue that fight in federal court to ensure the equality or the true equality at the ballot box. Thank you so much. Any questions? If not, seguro, en español después, claro. Anybody else? No? Perfecto. Si quieren lo lamentamos aquí en español.
Si quiere, pues ahorita lo hacemos.
Tú mandas. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for coming.
¿Quieren la sonrisa?
Sí.